I had been babysitting for the Wattersons for a long time now, but never for a whole weekend. They wanted to travel down south, despite the outspread of the pandemic, and wanted me to watch over their kids. I agreed, for they were paying good and it was just for a couple of days. On Friday night, I went to their house, taking all the precautions and making sure I wasn't infected. It was in a high-class neighborhood and a little isolated from the rest of town. It was a very elegant villa with long glass windows which I was sure must have cost a fortune. Miss Watterson gave me their cell numbers as well as landline where I could contact them in case of emergencies. They left and I got settled. After dinner, I got the kids to bed. George was 8 and his sister Janet was 5. They were not very troubling and soon complied and went to sleep. Being more of a night owl, it was still very early for me to go to bed. I grabbed a book from Mr. Watterson's library and started reading it on the couch. I was halfway through the first page when the phone rang. "Hello," I said after picking it up, but there was only silence on the other end. I said hello a few times, but no answer, so I hung up. I began to read once again. After a few minutes, urgent knocking on the front door disturbed me. I looked at the clock. It was about 10. Who could it be at this hour, I wondered, as I walked towards the door. I peeked through the door's peephole. There was nobody standing on the porch. That was really weird, so I opened the door and looked around. "Hello? Someone here?" I called out. No answer. I backed away and shut the door. I was beginning to feel really uneasy about all this. The phone began to ring once again and I picked it up once more, with an exasperating, "Hello?" Nobody replied. However, I heard ragged breathing on the other end, which was really creepy. I began to freak out as I asked, "Who are you? Stacy, is that you? It's not funny." I thought it was her, my best friend, who loved to pull pranks on people. I hadn't seen her for a while due to quarantine, which could be the reason why she might be prank calling me. The breathing pace increased. I began to panic and hung up. I called Stacy, and she answered in a voice heavy with sleep. "Quit acting. I know it was you," I accused her. "What are you talking about?" she replied. I told her about what happened and she denied calling me. As I was talking to her on the phone, I suddenly heard a door close upstairs. "George? Janet?" I said anxiously, but no answer. I rushed to the CCTV monitor and stopped to check in on the kids. They were sound asleep, but all of a sudden, a swish of black swept past the screen, as if someone had just passed in front of the camera. It was at that very moment that I felt my blood freeze. Even though I was terrified, I felt like I had the obligation to go upstairs since I was their babysitter. So against my will, I ran upstairs, calling 911 on my way, and barged inside the room. There was no one there besides the kids. I looked at the cupboard and neared it. Gulping, I opened the doors to see that there was no one inside. However, I realized that the window was fully opened. I looked outside, but there was no one around, so I thought to myself that this person must still be in the house. I was so petrified that I had trouble speaking to the emergency agent on the phone. My legs were shaking so much, I also had trouble walking. I decided that I would lock myself up in the room and wait until the cops arrived, as that would be the safest way for me and the kids to survive that night. A few minutes later, I finally heard the wails of sirens. The police searched the house but found no one there. However, the back door was open and some of the plants in the kitchen garden had been retreated on. The Wattersons rushed back home as soon as they heard, and I was happy to go home. It's been a while now and I still get cold sweats every time I talk about it. This happened to me back in April. I had just started renting a small apartment. Before that, I used to live in a shared apartment with a roommate, which didn't allow me much privacy. So I was fairly happy when I found this small apartment at a reasonable price. I was also happy because it was a block away from my workplace. I worked as a bartender in a nightclub. I used to work all night and sleep most of the day. When I was awake, I was rarely home. It must have been just 2 weeks after I rented the place that the global pandemic broke out. The nightclub shut down and I was laid off from work. I then spent most of my time searching for jobs online, but no luck. One night, I was scrolling through a website when I heard a weird sound in the room. It must have been midnight. It was the sound of some type of electronic gadget. I sipped my coffee and strained my ears to listen carefully, but the sound had already stopped. I didn't think much of it at the moment and assumed that it must have come from the apartment next to mine, because the walls were quite thin. I got back to scrolling the job listings online. That was when my phone beeped, implying that I had a new message. I looked at the message through the locked screen. It was really weird. The pop-up came from an app that I didn't remember installing on my phone. I swiped on my phone and opened up the message. "I see you," it said. It sounded really creepy, especially since it was way past midnight. "Who is it?" I typed back, and after hitting send, I put down my phone. Soon after, the phone beeped once again. I looked at the screen and saw that the person had sent a photo. My curiosity perked up and I opened it. At first, I didn't realize what I was looking at until I recognized my room. It was empty. I wondered, how has this person gotten a pic of my room? Is this my landlord trying to play a joke on me? Various possibilities came to mind. The phone beeped again, and I opened the next photo. This time, I was well and truly scared. The picture was of me, sleeping in my bed. It looked as if it had been snapped while standing near the door. I was shocked, but then he flooded my inbox with more pictures. The pictures came closer and closer, until the photo was snapped right beside my bed. There were photos of me all around the apartment, eating, taking a bath, and even changing my clothes. Then the phone beeped again, and the next photo had me paralyzed in fear. It was me, sitting on my bed, staring at my phone, sitting in the same posture that I was in right now. I slowly looked over my shoulder in fear and stared in the darkness around me, as I preferred to keep my lights out at night. I couldn't see a thing. My breathing became ragged, and I was frightened. I sped towards the door and ran outside, dialing 911 on my way. The police came and they searched the room. The landlord as well as my neighbors were questioned. It was after further examination that the police found hidden cameras, something which I had failed to notice before since I was rarely home. It's been a while now and police are still clueless about who could have done that. I moved out that same week and have been paranoid about staying somewhere new ever since. The pandemic had been going on for a while and quarantine was in full effect. I was in high school and online classes began. We had been using Zoom to communicate with our teachers and classmates. About a week ago, I called my girlfriend on Zoom in the morning. We talked for a while, but I was exhausted and I fell asleep. I woke up a couple hours later to my alarm going off for class at 11:30 as I would have an hour to eat and get ready. I noticed my girlfriend had also fallen asleep with Zoom on, but I just left it up, figuring she'd be awake when I got back. I practiced my script one more time for the oral exam I was getting ready for. I then hopped in the shower at noon. While getting out of the shower, my girlfriend's ringtone rang on my phone. My phone was out of minutes, so I didn't answer, but I did notice I had unread messages from my girlfriend. I read the first message and it said, "Why won't you answer me on Zoom? I see you moving in your room." I thought it was a joke and replied, "Not possible, babe. I'm not even in my room." She then quickly replied, "Stop playing. I can see you. LOL. Is that a new shirt?" That is when I heard a sudden sound burst from my room. My mom was supposed to be gone for the day, and my girlfriend's messages from what she was seeing on the Zoom video were definitely making me feel uncomfortable. My heart started racing. I then asked her what she saw and she responded with, "Your back is facing the camera." I came out of the bathroom calling for my mom, but no answer. I quietly started walking down the hallway towards my room, paying attention to any sound. My heart rushed even more. I only had a towel covering my lower body. "Mom?" I gasped out. Again, no answer. I finally reached my bedroom and put my ear against the closed door. I was shaking like a leaf, expecting there to be someone on the other side. I took my courage in both hands and abruptly opened the door. I noticed that the window in my room was wide open, but there was no one there. I called my girlfriend back on Zoom. The intruder had apparently shut it off when he saw that Zoom was live. But while calling back, I suddenly heard the front door open, followed by a loud thump. I then heard a swift sound of clanging, as if the intruder was grabbing a set of keys. The door then slammed shut. That was the last time I heard the intruder. I went back downstairs and locked all the doors and windows. I called my mom to come back home ASAP. While impatiently waiting, I noticed an opened cardboard package with our address on it on the table. The package didn't have a name, and I don't recall ordering anything online. Eventually, my mom got back and I told her about what happened, and she called the cops. The cops got to our place and took note of the situation and what had happened. They also left with the empty package. A few days passed and we didn't hear back from the cops. I was waiting on the city bus at the bus stop near our driveway in the morning to go to my girlfriend's when I noticed something shiny under a garbage bin outside. I lifted the bin and found a set of keys hidden under. I looked around and immediately had a flashback of the intruder picking up keys inside the house. I picked them up and walked back to our front door and then tried them. The first 2 keys didn't fit in the doorknob, but eventually, the third key slid inside. I took a deep breath and tried turning it. That's when the doorknob unlocked, and I was able to push my door wide open. I felt the blood suddenly run cold through my veins. I don't know if the intruder had plans to come back, but I was definitely not gonna let that happen. I told my mom and we called the cops again. We changed our doorknobs the same day and got extra locks for the inside. It's been a while now and everything has been fine since, but the suspect has yet to be found, and I sometimes wonder if he's still wandering around and intruding in people's homes. No matter how safe you think you are at home, always lock your doors. Do you have a true, personal, scary story to share? Send your 500 to 600 word horror story to goosebumpsterofficial@gmail.com. Please make sure you have well-structured sentences and grammar. Also, let us know how you would like your name to be credited on the video. Terrorize the like button and subscribe to the channel if you dare.
I'll see you soon.